Hello, everybody. Good evening. I'm Richa Agarwal, CEO, Emami Art and Kolkata Center for Creativity. Today, I have my very dear friend, Bose Krishnamachari, who is going to be speaking to us, and Ushmita Sahu, who is curating all of the talks. This is the third of the series that we are having. We've had some fantastic conversations, very interesting takebacks, lots of food for thought. I'm sure you're going to enjoy it as much as you've enjoyed the first and second sessions. So a little, Bose Krishnamachari needs no introduction, but for the benefit of me and some of others who love talking about him, I'm going to still read a little short bio of his. Bose Krishnamachari has exhibited in several solo and group exhibitions, including Bombay Maximum City, Lille 3000, France, curated by Caroline Napegi. I'm sorry, one second. The Shape That Is, Jandela and Concourse, Esplanade, Singapore, Indian Art at the Swarovski Crystal World, Innsbruck, Austria, Gateway Bombay at the Peabody Essex Museum, India Art Now at Milan, Indian Highway at Serpentine Gallery, the Astrup Fearnley Museum, Norway, the Herning Museum of Contemporary Art, Denmark, the Lyon Contemporary Art Museum, the Foundation Maxi at Rome, at Amsterdam, the Traveling Project, Lava, and my favorite of all of them, The Mirror Sees Best in the Dark at Emami Art in 2020. His curatorial projects include the seminal exhibition Bombay 17 at the Kashi Art Gallery, the Bombay Boys New Delhi, Double Enders, a traveling show between Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, and Kochi, Calm at the Icon Gallery, New York, The Markers, Bodhi Art Museum, Spy, Museum Art Gallery, which was organized by the Guild, Mumbai, Soft Spoken at the NCPA. I can go on and on and on about his never-ending work, which has inspired so many of us. He was the artistic director and the co-curator of India's first Biennale, the Kochi Muziris Biennale 2012. He's the director of the Kochi Muziris Biennale 2014, 2016, 2018, and is the president of the Kochi Biennale Foundation. Bose Krishnamachari curated For an Image, Faster Than Light, first edition of the Hyunchang Biennale, China, which showed the works of 73 artists from 33 countries in the Museum of Contemporary Art. He is also a board member of the International Biennale Association. Bose Krishnamachari lives and works between Mumbai and Kolkata. I've kept his bio as brief as it could possibly get, but on a very personal note, I can say that he's a very, very dear friend, someone who is always reachable when you want to have a conversation or you want to brainstorm, and a true teacher in all respects, always ready to train and learn and teach at the same time, giving much more than any of us can ever think of giving him. So thank you so much, Bose. It really means a lot to Ushmita and me that you are a part of our talks today. So over to you, Ushmita.
Richa, I think that was really wishful thinking, but Bose lives and works between Bombay and Kochi. But
and all over the world.
and all over the world, yes. Thank you, Bose. It's a real pleasure to have you with us today. And good evening, everyone, to all our viewers on Zoom as well as Facebook. After the conversation between Bose and I, we will be taking questions. So please do write in your questions on both the platforms, and we will try and accommodate as many as time permits, of course. Bose, welcome. And as Richa rightly said, his identity negates categorization. I think he's quite against categorization, and he fluidly inhabits the roles, of an artist, of a designer, curator, organizer, gallerist, collector, mentor, Biennale director, and even a fashion enthusiast. Yeah. So Bose, should we dive right in?
Hi, Richa and Ushmita for inviting me to be part of this webinar. And hi to all of my friends from around the world whom I know, or if I don't know, then I would like to know them in future. Thank you, Ushmita. Now you can shoot.
Okay. The first thing that, as I was reading up your biography, leading up to, of course, today's conversation, I felt that the story of your life reads almost like a work of fiction, where the protagonist, of course, he comes from humble beginnings, goes through life-changing experiences due to prolonged illness and a brush with death. Then you travel from the village in rural Kerala to the bustle of Bombay, live in Sakinaka for a year with migrant workers, and then you paint portraits to make ends meet. You enroll in JJ school where you get the first position in bachelor's, but are expelled in 92 for critiquing the infrastructure. In the same year, you are declared the face of Indian art by Illustrated Weekly. Then you have three major solos, two of which were during your bachelor's in within 3-year format. You make friends with artists young and senior alike, poets like Ranjit Hoskote, architects. So all of these early experiences undoubtedly shaped you as a person, as well as how you approach your practice. Would you care to elaborate?
So, in a way, when I landed in Mumbai, I was very shy in a way. But I think, a shy boy with a lot of rebel within himself, like I don't predict my life, so I uh, go with moments and time. Look at what's important is I realized from my early years of practice, early years of learning. I believe that everything is a kind of chance, everything is a destiny, but destiny is not given by God or anyone like that. It is your belief, your trust in yourself, your enthusiasm to know about things around the world, your passion towards your work. These three elements and your commitment towards what you believe in, that taken me to places. And like I lived in many universities for me, universities as individuals, as universities. One of the sittings and talks, one of my friends said that Sadanand Menon, a critic and curator writer, said, we have many universities surrounding, sitting with us. One of them, he was pointing out, one of his talks about Akbar Padamsi. I believe that's the same thing. I can say that, I have met incredible minds from around the world, especially Mumbai given me everything. Each and everyone from Mumbai, from the low life to the hedonistic life, I can say that, from different classes of life I have seen. I can go on names, Curated, but I would like to say a few names like Akbar Padamsi is one of them, and Lakshman Shrestha, Adul Dodia, Sudarshan Shetty. I spent a lot of hours with the Sudarshan's studio. We used to fight a lot from 95 onwards, I think, 94, 95 onwards. So there's so many names, even galleries, like Shirin Gandhi to Pandol, Dadiba, and, spending time with the first gallerist in India, Bal Chabda, spending at his home, visiting his home, having conversations with Meli Gobai and, the process of working, coming, like his days in US and things like that. It's a conversation. That conversation's taken me to places. So I can go on, Ushmita, on the same subject for hours and hours. Yeah.
So I think let's start the screen share and maybe look at your works and go on from there. So I'll share the screen now. Yeah. Yeah, so this, maybe you can.
So you can you can go on, like I've done my master's from Goldsmiths, but like what I realized when I was studying in JG School of Art, like JG was really dominated by the idea of, or the theory, like the school was mostly abstract school of thinking. They used to, sometimes I used to feel it is a Bauhaus kind of thinking. Sometimes I used to feel it is almost like a British kind of school of thinking or practices. Here it is. There are two mediums I have used. One is the paper, and the other one is a canvas. Like these experiences. When I look back, abstract. I used to hate this abstract school of art practices when I used to visit Jahangir Art Gallery. What is this? I never understood what it is. But it's a kind of enlightenment. It has happened to your life that, you realize what is it, what is abstract means to you. And, that realization come on your practices, So I, I dabbled in many things, before coming to Bombay. I studied music, I studied the dance. I learned, theater, theater, especially absurd theater, so it's kind of interesting background I have. Other art world, so other art fields, I would say. So this helped me. But for example, here it is Music of the Cubes. This was titled by my friend Ranjit Soskote. He was 19 or 18 or whatever the age, like he was a prodigy of writings, like I used to visit him at his office in Times of India. It was only 2 minutes away from JJ School of Art. So amazing location I lived, so it's kind of JJ School of Art has the architecture, at the same time, applied art, like a lot of interesting, great filmmakers like Gitanjali Rao or Sunil Padwal, like all those people used to, they were in applied art, and architects like Kapil Gupta. All these guys, I never knew that they will become stars of Indian contemporary architecture or, filmmaking or things like that. So it is interesting to see that abstract school, but how we changed it into many kind of that school. My inspiring, in a way that there was only one professor who used to talk about contemporary art. And it was also very limited, I would say that, he used to talk about Paul Seeker and he used to talk about Paul Klee. Paul Klee and, these practitioners, how abstraction and things like that, But if I really wanted to know about narrative school, I have to look at my other artists who used to make art. So the kind of school, the university school given me that abstract school of practicing. But as a kind of educational institute, you have to do, if your teacher says that you make kanda potato, I used to make kanda potato and used to do it very well as well.
So, you talked about getting an enlightenment or suddenly understanding what abstraction was about. And I think your use of braille and the scratching or perforations, I think dates back to this kind of a time.
This was happened while I was painting. I used to work late nights, at home. In my Kerala home, my ancestor home, my mom used to bring kattan chai, we say black tea, late nights. I was working, then suddenly I realized, suddenly I got to know, this is it, this is, I don't know how to explain to it, but it's kind of, that enlightenment is, understanding darkness at the same time, light within the darkness, or, so that aspects in the art itself, how, when you are blind, how do you read things? Your experiences, 360 degree of experience is much larger in many senses. That senses is not just sixth sense or navarasas. It is much bigger than that. So, there is, the scratches in this paper, the music of the cubes. It's almost like a notes of, somebody's written a, poem or whatever. But it is, there is no meaning to it. It is all that moment. But how I used to feel about notes, how used to sense music in oneself. I created these kind of work. So Braille is an important aspect, Braille, invention of Braille is also happened through, if you go through the history, it's also interesting. That blind guy creating, and he was actually, yeah. Here it is. When I look at this is a poem by the order is by Ranjit Hoskote, and this is like so many layers. I have created this handmade papers, spiral books, and this was exhibited in my third show of a museum is it comes from, even this title was given by Ranjit. A museum means there are amusement. It comes from no museum, a museum. This kind of context, the context was interesting. And also when I was looking at these kind of works, I never used to see, I used to often go to these gallery spaces, never seen large scale paintings, and this 360-degree of Venetian blinds turning around like the abstract work is turning around to another dimension. These are the kind of things. And these books are also come from Mumbai streets. When you walk from JJ School of Arts to Flora Fountain, you find there is a kind of lot of absurdity, and there is a kind of lot of momentary, moments I've seen people sitting on books. And sitting on books itself is a kind of almost like I could not take it, but I used to see that, Samuel Beckett there as well, that absurd theater. And that memory and momentaries, nothing, nothing. I have written small notes in that, the first catalog when I produced the catalog in 92 with the help of Ranjit. This is in Chennai, and this candle burned every day, and it's itself created every day different kinds of form and things like that. So the process is an interesting aspect when I look at these works. And books always used as kind of history, the time where I have used those work, and also the decay, the layers, layers and layers in abstraction, layers and layers in memory. And when I talk about memory, I want to go back to the period of coma. I was in coma for a few years, my age of 17 to in between 17 to 21, age of 21. That's the time I realized death is nothing. It's a beautiful sleep, I believe that, once on death of memories, ends of oneself, that kind of belief I have. This is also these enlightenment or these realization. You go through the fire and you face the facts in life. That comes in my almost every work in some ways. Just a position of death and life. There is no gray scale in between the death and life. It is within oneself. So that kind of. Mrs. Prema Srinivasan, here it is Andrea, Anastasia. These two people are important in my life in some ways. Andrea taught me about many conversations with him. I met him the first time in Chennai. Prema Srinivasan is from TVS family, and her home, and incredible personalities like Francisco Clemente to Ettore Satsas to many other great names. When I have conversations with her, comes naturally to her, and also she's very much familiar with them and worked with them. They worked for her as well. And Andrea is a fantastic designer, lighting designer, artist. And, there is no framework for an artist nowadays. We all started as a painter, but, it's all turned out to be. So we worked together for a show in Bombay called, I had Objects of Attention. And the objects, when I talk about objection, this is also the catalog text was written by Ranjit Hoskote. This work is for another interesting, anecdote. I can say that, when Sonal Motla and Abhay Mangaldas was trying to organize an interesting project with artists who created, not necessarily furniture, but the object inspired from furniture. And one of the work was collected by Mr. Harsh Goenka, and many others. Like it was an interesting show, and my name was suggested by Akbar Padamshi, and I was the youngest artist participating in that 8 artist show. It was in 93, 94 period of time, yeah. And I come from a family of designers. I would say they never called it designers; they are carpenters or the craftsmen. My father was a carpenter, but he was a architect. He's designed fantastic furnitures and architectural spaces as well, but we never used to call them designers. Here it is an iconic, dabbawala or dabba or tiffin career. It's important when you live some works in Bombay. You know what is the best to like as like Dushanbian way. When I look at the art world, what is the best thing to showcase, best thing to produce? So I have done quite a lot of work inspired from the Dabbawalas and survival of the these people. And
You
so
also talked about
it was shown in Delhi as well. Pardon?
You also spoke about having created a space within it, almost like a votive space within the dabbas, and where you kept some things.
Yeah, in the like there are the objects within that objects I have used video works. That's later I can talk about in some of the other works in the Bose Transmemo, those kind of work. Here it is, the central part. It's almost like kind of central part. I have sketched instantaneous sketches of chairs, the power of power and powerless place, negative and positive, that kind of thing, and using colors in these hundreds of work on paper. It was in YB Chavan Center and Lakiran Gallery. Arshia was one of the interesting galleries and young galleries who started her gallery space in Andheri, like in Bombay. And it was Andheri as well as in YB Chavan Center. I have done this project. And also celebrated during this period of time. I used to celebrate with all my artist friends after each opening. We used to go out and have real fun. This year it is, those, in 1995, when I look back, the scale of the artwork, this is directly on the wall, like I like this kind of professional approach, but never used to have that opportunity to have it in Mumbai at Jahangir Art Gallery or many of the gallery spaces, or even National Gallery Modern Art. We never have this kind of. So I have paid to just directly. I wanted to make this installation right, and so it's called Objects of Attention series. Worked quite a lot of, and also books, and so it's kept on coming back, the Sanctum Sanctorum kind of thing. The central part, I used keys day to day. What are the kind of strap hangers in the train, the tickets, all that kind of memories, memoirs kept inside these kind of with the wax melt. So it's kind of, there is a kind of lot of process, lighting inside within the work itself, so that there was a design, the same time that scenography of keeping the things for learned it through having conversation or looking around the art world. This is all learned it from looking around the museums spaces or gallery spaces. Yeah.
So this is a very interesting slide, and
there's an amazing guy called Tom Marione. Tom Marione, I met him in 1996. I received a fantastic award called the Mid-America Arts Alliance Award. The USI has given this award, So I was landed in Washington, and I have given a list of people whom I want to meet. I would like to visit their studios or museum places or something like that. So he was one of them. Tom Marione used to live in San Francisco, next door to the Mocha there. And I had the residency at Sausalito, one of the finest residency place called Headlands Center for Visual Art. If young people are listening, it must visit. If you are applying for a residency, you should look at this place. And I had a great opportunity visiting his studio. And act of this the statement is interesting. Act of drinking beer with the friends is the highest form of art. Every Thursdays or Wednesdays, he used to bring friends. He used to call friends. They used to bring beer bottles, and he used to create the empty bottles. He used to reuse it for art making. Also, that conversation, that places for creating conversation spaces were very important. I still believe that conversation spaces are most important aspect to create your better life. Better conversation spaces, a collective spaces or community building spaces. You have to have it for future. I think this that's one of the reason I thought I should show this work. And I had the opportunity visiting Linda Banglis' studio, visiting Francesco Clemente, Frank Stella's studio, and also later Joseph Kossuth. In fact, Kossuth introduced me to, informed about Peter Nagy in India. I didn't know Peter earlier, and it was in '96 visit at his studio. He asked me to, and '97 this show called, I showed it in Bombay. It was not it was always incomplete. My projects are incomplete in some ways. This is called Persistence of Memory. And 3 artists showed together in, Peter organized that Nature More, that project. It was about, there were 13 panels of memories of 26 poets, 13 poets from Kerala, 13 poets from Maharashtra, like Namdev Dasal to, Dilip Chitre to Ranjit, friends like C.P. Surendran, and then Masood Taj, and Jerry Pindo. I can go on talking about 26 names, but so these are the kind of scale and project I've done it, but these works are with, I don't know where is this work, that's also interesting. There are many people, I know where it is, but, I don't want to talk about it. So, yeah. This is, also when I look at these terrible slides, I wanted to say to all my artist friends, all my archiving friends, please record your life better. I used to tell all my young generation of practitioners, all friends, take pictures, take good slides. Those time, we used to have transparencies, later period, it's now digital period, you can do anything. But I don't have any kind of material. I have done hundreds of work, this is Field Sakshi. It's all the images are still screened and painted. The images are from war, Second World War, and a war is almost like a celebration here. It is not about death I was showing, but it is a celebration of the fascists. It's a celebration of the capitalists. Without war, these capitalist countries cannot exist. Their main agenda is to how much you can invest, how much you can bring wealth into that or economy to that field of. But it's kind of, it is not a crying field. Sakshi. Sakshi means witness. So that's a kind of work I have done. It's on paper, perforated paper. It's almost like a bullet holes on canvas. Like kind of, there are many layers to it. So both the side of artwork and things like that. So yeah.
So let's do some of your.
Sakshi used to have a fantastic place in Parel. One of the, I think, it was designed by a great architect, Rahul Mehrotra, and it was a very interesting place. And I used to hang around with a lot of friends, Sunita Kumar, Sudarshan, Nuru, Karim, and a lot of architects friends, and photographer friends, and yeah. This comes from the Structured Body series. And this also has an important history, how these words comes in, or these kind of series, the extreme way of color usage, color. I was studying in Goldsmiths College in 99 to 2000, which I got an award from the British Council called um, Charles Wallace India Trust Award. It was a 1-year master's degree, which I have done it in 99 and 2000. This is after 92. I went to, this place to learn about art, but I didn't wanted a degree or something like that. I really wanted to experience the places. I got into this college because of Michael Craig Martin. He was teaching there before. In 91, I think he left. Sorry, 98 he left Goldsmiths. I joined in 99. So I was reading about this pedagogue, a pioneer pedagogue. I mean, his influence in younger generation of artists, Damien Hirst to Sarah Lucas to many others, like if we look at the history of contemporary art of Britain, UK, the 20th century, end of the 20th century was really focused in 15 years or 2 decades. We can look at that space as a kind of important in the history of contemporary art. So one reason was this Craig Martin. And when he was the tutor, I just happened to bump into him, and I told him, because of you, I am in Goldsmiths College. And another great, I would say a patron of my life is Sharad Maharaj. Sharad Maharaj was a curator and writer, and his art history department. He used to be the head of Goldsmiths College's art history department, and he used to introduce me to some fantastic people. Anyway, coming back to this artwork, the stretched bodies, and I was showing all my work, that abstract work. Also, I've done photographic work. It was also interesting. You can take out any kind of camera, big scale photography scale. You can practice in those colleges, which we were lacking it in JJ School of Art, which was, I used to say it in 92. I said that, we don't have a studio for, printing. We don't have a photography studio, etc., etc. There are many things you can talk about it. Anyway, so he was giving an example. Craig Martin given an example of this, looking at my work, and said, "Bose, you should look at the artist Vermeer, how Vermeer looked at his." He is talking about an abstract work, and again he's giving an example of Vermeer, which was an interesting context he's given. And then and he said, look at the extremity he's gone into making that, and and you should try and get that extremity within any space you're creating. So I was thinking, what is the best thing you can do it? When I was studying in JJ School of Art, the Herbert Reed's book, when I look at the last page, who's done the latest abstract work, it was Agnes Martin, I think. It was almost like a graph, so they're very minimalistic. And I taken from there to that when I was looking at the minimalistic, looking at this architecture of Sana created for the new museum in Bowery, the next one. This project, it's minimalistic architecture designed by Sana, a Japanese architect, for the new museum. I can see it everywhere, like in architecture, design, fashion, books, graphics, everywhere you can see minimalism as well as maximalism, or, the chaos, the inspired from that kind of thing. So here it is. So it has all helped me, these kind of travel and learning, so Craig Martin was one of them, and Sharad Maharaj introduced me to interesting people. When I came back to India, I realized that, I was a little bit disappointed with the curatorial work was happening from India, whenever you look at, there is a kind of frustration, where is your place? You question yourself, do you have a place in the art world? I never used to represent a gallery, but I used to show with every gallery in this country, most of the galleries, started with the Chemold, my small drawing, it was in a group show. Even the Chemold, Mr. Gandhi, K. Gandhi was introduced me to by J. Swaminathan during my studies um, in JJ, but like we met in Bharat Bhavan, Bhopal. Swaminathan was heading there, and we were as a kind of students' camp. I was participating and things like that. So coming, when I look at Ghost Transformer, this work, 108 LCD monitors and there are hundreds of tiffin carrier or lunch boxes and cables and that chaos. Even everything is visible. Even the all the mechanism is visible, which I consciously created. It's almost like a length of a bogie, train bogie I created. Here it is almost like you can get inside this design of this ghost transformer project. This was in London. It's called Ghost. The project is called Ghost. And I had many other projects in this, like hand drawn. This is these videos are all made by some of my friends. I suggested them. I would like to have a sound bites, or it's almost like a kind of reading their life, in celebrities to from the low life, all kinds of people. So this work was shown in many museums, many places, and it is traveled and it's collected by one of the finest collector um, called Daskalopolis. Dimitri Daskalopolis collected. I showed in Serpentine, which is really interesting to started from Lille, or started from Mumbai, Mumbai in different locations, and this is a ballpoint on canvas, in a silk canvas drawing. And also I use the graph, and I think graph is everywhere. When I look at anybody, I can look through graph. I can look through the same thing. I use it in my music of the cubes, or like making a portrait, or there are hundreds of works done like this. Yeah.
This has a very interesting anecdote, this work.
This is a ghost. Ghost, and nobody's seen Ghost. Have you seen Ghost, Ushmita?
Not that I know of.
I can't hear you. Anyway, this is this. I have created this model maquette for my own museum. I was thinking of making a museum in Kerala. I have some fantastic collection of young generation to all kinds of people, not only young generation, different kinds of period of. Sometimes you try to be part of that generation of practitioners, and I created this model, and later I felt that who will take care of it after my life. I was thinking about it, and also then I started building. This was in 2009. I bought that property in Kerala, which is about 1.2 acres of land, beautiful location, and I designed it and created this small, inspired from the temple architecture. And so no designer, and I designed it myself, and I familiarity, what are the kind of things you needed for it, and also taken help from my friends, designers help. And then this become a kind of ghost. This can also, ghost can be a misunderstood one as well. Like you can't really read this work, because it's hidden within the layers of skin. So it's on the contemporary materials also I used for making such projects. This is that period, the Korean was a material, used for furniture making and things like which I used it. This project is a kind of memory of 15 years of my practice, this comes from the music of the cubes. I produced a show called Exist. So previously also I was saying whether I exist or not, so I wanted to say that I existed, I exist, like my memory is my existence. So I created, it's all from my memory. I created all kinds of styles of working. Those period of time in the 90s or 80s or 70s, 70s I haven't started working, but when I look at the history, any artist, when we look at it, most of the artists used to work on one style of making art. If they are abstractionists, they used to do abstraction. Here it is. For me, inspirations come from all over. Like when I look at, read daily practices of, Gerhard Richter. I don't know how to pronounce his name, a German artist. Or daily practices, which curated by Hans Ulrich Obrister for, there used to be a gallery called Anthony Dioffé in London, which was closed, and he was a big collector as well. Anyway, this book is an interesting one to read, and I think daily practices is very important. I can see that in, I've seen it in A. Ramchandran, I've seen it in artists like, my memory is quite bad, but there are many artists, practice daily, everyday practices definitely help them. So this practice not necessarily always, painting, but practice is also, you can have conversations, that also take you to another level. If the practices of painting, a painter should not be just, I would say that, they should not be just talking about painting. They should talk about, you should have conversations with theater people. They should have conversations with filmmakers or musicians or something or the other. This is one of the celebratory moments we have captured in the photograph in the previous work, and done different kind of large scale paintings. This is oil and acrylic on canvas. This left side figure is taken it from Satyajit Ray's film, and there is a kind of innocence in the left side, and the other side it's also there is an innocence. But the central part is a kind of, you don't know what is the location, it's a kind of, it's called neo-realistic European drink. And it is after this liberalization in the 90s, and liberalization also after, it is also reflected in your work and, economy as well, so that's kind of work. Can you show the next slide? Yeah, here it is, I'm not critiquing, here it is the barcodes and white cube. White cube, there is a term called, exhibition spaces, galleries called white cubian spaces, right? And this, I have created this space, I have, these images are not, digitally manipulated. I have taken it from different location, and I created this gallery space, a white cubian space, and created this work in, in the period of, in the 90s. This project is in 1999. I don't know why this shift happened. 99, I've done two shows. One is called The Field Sakshi, and this is called A Museum Memoirs. It's in the Rotunda building of this National Gallery of Modern Art. And these figures are all from Mumbai. When I used to walk in late nights in Victoria Terminus, in those days we used to call VT Station Victoria Terminus. Now it is called Chhatrapati Shivaji Terminus. So that space, a lot of people used to sleep on that floor, like on that, almost everywhere. I wanted to make maybe hundreds of these human figure. These, it's all casted human figures, and the 265 degree of that 265 feet length of this blue sky I have created, and these books, and there are a lot of photographs. You can see the details of working people's hand photographed, and it's a kind of assemblage of that. So it's a kind of sea of Mumbai. I would say it's inspired from that day-to-day life of Mumbaikar. Yeah.
This is No.
This show is called No. Again, it's a kind of continuation of Exists, No Exist, that kind of thing. You can see that kind of extremity in this juxtaposition of extremity in this placement. Extreme right side, you see minimalistic, it is called Love. The previous work, it is in the darker space, you can see the dots. It's called Love in Braille. And of course, this is that stretched body. So that just a position, even when you organize an exhibition or design an exhibition, and here it is, two characters, like extremely different, one popular figure. And also it is one of the selfies of the present time. You can see there are a lot of selfie kind of moments. You can see it in these kind of work. Also, this is inspired from local, how politicians, how people, exhibit themselves on the streets. The hoardings, inspired from the hoardings. And you are standing like a kind of, a clown there in some ways, So I like to see that kind of spaces. Yeah. This is oil on canvas, oil and acrylic on canvas. Yeah. This work is the furniture, inspired from Mondrian's tree. In Mondrian used to paint trees, in the trunks become lines, the lines become, one of the most influential artworks in the modernist period. We used to call it bleach chisel, the style and things like that, but I think much more, people like Corbusier to many fashion designers inspired from his work. Here it is, it's a bookshelf. I always fond of books, and so I created this tree. Not the modernist way, but it's kind of inspired from Mondrian's tree, and the title is something like that. This is all come from looking or living in Mumbai, seeing the real estate, the growing real estate, and references are taken it from, the Last Supper. The chairs represent the figures in the Last Supper, and the mics represent the time, in the 90s, 2000, you can see the overloaded media and overloaded, we call it page 3, or, the red carpet, the walk in red carpet. Power of the real estate. It's called the white builders and the red carpets, and 108 mics, right? So this it's exhibited in Dubai, Amsterdam, Delhi, and different places. Yeah.
So, Bose, can
And
I ask
by
a question here? Like, I
yeah,
think
sure.
uh, the number 108 has been repeated in some of your works in Dabba, in the Ghost
Yeah,
Transformer also
right.
here as well. And then there are also other numbers that keep repeating within your
Right.
practice.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and you've talked about mathematics and you've talked about philosophy and how, again, these two extremities existing together. So, could you shed some light on that?
Yeah, sure. 108 is a kind of, it's a ritualistic number, with its the prayer mala has, 108 beats. But I'm not using it in the religious context. Any work, any places when I use numbers, it's also inspired from maybe um, biblical terms, or like religious terms. But the work where I am placing, why I'm taking such numbers, to us, that in that sense I'm taking number in these kind of projects. 108 is 108 beats in the prayer mala. That is one of the reason I use. Um, yeah.
So next we come to Lava, a project very close to your heart.
This is lava.
Yeah.
One of my, I would say that uh, it's such projects you can grow with, you can go on making it, but in present context I don't know how far it works. I think still libraries or laboratory works, I call it laboratory visual art. And there were 12 monitors, like and with 1,800 DVDs collected from around the world. I have created this temporary library or temporary laboratory in places. It's an important aspect so that, I was traveling and I was studying during my studies in JJ School of Art. I never used to get contemporary art books or, magazines, Art Forum or, like art. Once in a while you used to get some books around above, Gallery 7 used to have a space, Strand bookshop in the same building, the ground floor in a Strand bookshop. At the mezzanine floor used to have a lot of architecture and design and, few books, So I used to collect. I Earlier I used to browse, and later period I used to, used to get a good discount and things like that. Used to collect it from them. Here it is. This is my, and also the modular furniture is an important aspect when you create it. This is in Kochi right now. The furniture is different now. It is not belongs to me now. This belongs to the foundation. But I have this till I can continue on working on this project. So it was exhibited in Gallery 88 in Kolkata and Baroda at Red Hat Gallery, and Delhi, were there, in Travancore House or Travancore places, Sumukha in Bangalore, Kochi, Kachi, and many other places. It was a traveling project, which I bought two trucks to travel around India, as a project, library. Earlier days when I was a kid, I used to buy books, 5 rupees, 3 rupees, used to get books from Prabhat publication. Prabhat is kind of Russian writings, and Russian books used to sell books on the, like they come with a small van, and, we could buy the books and things. 5 rupees, 10 rupees used to get Mayakovsky to Tolstoy to all of them. But here it is. I wanted to have that, large, going to villages with this 40 feet long truck, which I sold it for the biennial. Some period of time we wanted to raise some funds. So like my other friends, they sold some properties. I sold this property for making the biennial happen. Yeah. So now it is in Pepper House. Pepper House is in Fort Kochi. Like a lot of people say that's an incredible experience.
I have a
I
question.
like the aspect even when I created this gallery in Bombay called BMB. It is below the Kemol building. With Mr. Yash Birla, Avanti, and Devanshi's daughter, Dia Mehta. She's an incredible photographer. Anyway, that space, I really believe in that conversation spaces. What I miss in Mumbai is Samoa. There's a place called Samoa in Jahangir Art Gallery. I used to meet a lot of filmmakers, great thinkers, writers, artists. So when we thought of a gallery space, there was a small bookshop and a small cafe within the gallery space itself was the idea. Here it is in the Pepper House is also like that, Yeah.
So this is interesting. Lenin
How much
19.
time you have? How much time you have? I
We,
didn't.
ha- we have time. I mean, let's let's
Okay.
talk about the show. Yeah.
So this is my portrait, but like I see myself in many other great people, or also I could relate, so I call it in Lenin, Gandhi, Bose, and Bose, like that. I could see many figures, many thinkers, many artists. So here it is, one project, one right hand side again. It's braille. The material is also interesting material called graphite. I use it quite often in my projects. And the last project also I've shown it. Origin is the end of, origin is the end is the origin. This is taken it from Tagore's play, you know. So I use that kind of context, negative and positive, and the original and the unknown. Unknown, I would say that braille, you cannot really read it, visually. You cannot touch an artwork. There is a kind of contradictory aspect into it. So, next,
And
please.
you and you also mentioned about coal and graphite being a material that never melts and how that is important.
never, this can go into any kind of fire, it can carry any kind of heat. And it's already, this material is represent the death of somebody. And, for me, my death was, my, um,
Is that a phone?
sorry, 1 minute.
Richa, would you like to come on?
So this, here it is, there are 10 elements I used it for, it's almost like 10 um, obsessions.
Right.
God, casteism, religion, regionalism, racism, capitalism, nationalism, chauvinism, technology, narcissism. I think God and narcissism, it's a kind of real obsession. When I had the last show with Richa Agarwal's gallery, Emami Arts, the two 7.510 heavyweight in a way rocks, taken it from, found from Kerala, created this text, Braille, as well as the text you can read. I read it out. So that 10 words taken it from this, inspired from, of course, why this number 10, as I mentioned earlier, it's a biblical term, I have used it. And here it's without the box. I've taken it, used it in that Ashok chakra, but the chakra doesn't have that, it cannot really move, and it's called, up, it's exhibited in a upside down in some ways, there are 2019 plus. So I use this time, actually, this is also inspired from, I would say, Prince of Wales Museum. When you go to a museum, you see early years of findings which you cannot really read in that period of time. So I felt that this period of time, this is what is existing, this obsession is taken into a kind of extreme level of your these are the words, the most dangerous, but it sounds very good when you talk about God. It sounds good when you talk about religion, when you talk about even narcissism. It is the age of selfies, age of technology. You are obsessed by something. That obsession take you to the extreme position making. Like the capitalism or the fascism is all originated, which you experience every day in your life right now. Whether you take America or whether you take in India, you can experience that dictatorship of the obsession of the I, me, myself. When you travel, you can see that. So this also, I use the brain language, but it is here it is a kind of perforations. So I used to use it in materials. Both the sides are important when I create a work in paper. So sometimes I use mirror behind these perforations. Sometimes use colors. This is 10 text in 10 frames, the white on white. Next. So I believe in designing or scenography, in a gallery, how you use color, how you take the angle, how you design spaces. And Mr. Pinaki Patel designed a fantastic place for Richa, and I have taken that opportunity to create how I can manipulate or build something within that space itself. I must have visited 4 or 5 times to see the space to build this, So yeah, so there are 41 graphite sheets, and as I earlier mentioned about that graph, or the dots or musical notes, you can see it in all these works of graphite. It's very extremely minimalistic, and there are the layers, and it's also experiences of decay, experiences of it's all come from my day-to-day experiences. When I used to work with my young generation of artists, I used to teach them, or I used to tell them, look at this, it is my work, everywhere I touch and say it's all, it's all inspired from, local trains or local, the wall spaces of Mumbai, so that kind of thing. This is, handmade wood carved by brilliant craftsmen from Kerala and painted gold. you know, given 9 sizes of, you know, again that number 9, Navarasas, you know, it's nothing to do with rasas here, but you know, the number I've taken. And below there is a kind of sharp edged saw kept it. So there is a danger in even beauty and, you know, all these kind of places. I don't want to analyze it, the works, but you know, it is important to experience it in some ways. Here it is religion on the right side, and the left side is the 41 abstract minimalistic work, and the right side, the wallpaper is also, I designed it for the space, and the religion is a kind of multi-layered, you know, it it is created in such a way that, you know, use a certain kind of glass, you know, one-sided glass, and you know, one side is mirror, so there's kind of reflection goes inside, you know, infinite kind of reflections you can see through this religion. So it's a kind of we never understood what kind of layers, what kind of things. It's kind of one of the most misunderstood word or misunderstood thing in our life. And I used a mirror, you know, a lot of materials used in this project. The mirror is from Kerala, a place called Aramula mirror. You know, it's almost like yin and yang. Both the side, it is one sheet. Both the side, it's a kind of metal. You know, it's very fragile at the same time, and this transparent, colorful thing framed within dark space. So there is a kind of and also the levels of looking at these artworks in a gallery space like this. Yeah. And this chaos, but it is all, this chaos is also beautiful. There is an order within the chaos itself, and it's God. And in the wallpaper is also designed by me, printed in Mumbai and pasted, you know, so that it's, I created a sanctum sanctorum. I designed this room with 120 feet long and 90 feet width, and 9 images, 9 text with the different mediums, you know, graphite, for example, there is graphite, there's wood, ceramic, there is steel, bronze, you know, there are materials, you know, so that materiality is also an important aspect in contemporary time. I felt like using it. So the entire room, as I see it, as a kind of one work, and of course it has nine works inside. Yeah, 9 texts outside this one. Yeah.
Yeah, so we come
Yeah,
to
this is like when you go inside and outside, you know, the same experience, you know, like end is the origin, origin is the end, I believe, you know. That, yeah. Thank you, Rucha, and thank you,
Thank you,
Ushmita.
Bose. You know, there
I
was
think, you know, we
something
have
which
taken a
I
lot of
need
time.
to. That's okay. I think we can just go on and on. But
yeah.
you know, coming back to the last exhibition, another conversation that I think is very interesting to have is, in most of your others, you've probably used the concept of either minimalism or maximalism. And I see in your last one, it's like completely juxtaposed, and you have minimalism and maximalism sometimes in one work, and sometimes works complementing each other.
Yeah. I don't know whether to compliment or, you know, whether it is compliment, but it is like, I like contradictions, you know. When we talk about dialogue, you know, it is two, you know, when you have to have the other to have conversations. You know, the same way myself, I inspired from the land of Mumbai, but my roots are from Kerala. It's a kind of very serene, you know, beautiful landscape, and, you know, seascapes, and, you know, beautiful rivers and things like that. But I live in the metropolis where the human, you know, it's so much of energy that chaos is also beautiful. I believe the energy in Mumbai is almost like an amazing energy. Both the state has, you know, like I would say that in Maharashtra as well as, you know, when I say Maharashtra, Mumbai, for me, I always say that I'm a Mumbaikar Mallu, you know, because I,
Absolutely.
I've taken it from there, you know. So coming back to your, you know, like juxtaposition or incorporating, or, you know, aligning with both the thinking is consciously I put it together in many of my shows, but I don't know whether you are seeing entire project yourself, so you feel this is the first time I've done it, but I've done it in that no show also in a different manner.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
So Bose, we
Thank you,
have
Tristan. Nice observation.
It was fantastic.
so we have some questions. Bose, I'm going to read out some of the questions that
Yeah.
people sent in. Sudeep Ghosh asks, how do you sustain the flashes of momentary insights after you create works influenced by that phase of realization? Do those flashes change? How do you nurture artistic
So,
abilities? What role did your faith?
sorry, I can't. Sorry, can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me better now?
Yeah.
How do you sustain the flashes of momentary insights after you create works influenced by that phase of realization? Do those flashes change?
You should not be bothered about it. I think, I believe in the next, I believe in surprises. You should not be bothered about it. And then, if you don't leave some kind of surprises and, or, spaces, then there is no point in working. I believe that, those moments, even frankly speaking, I don't like to go back to my previous works as an artist, but of course you see it everywhere, but so that moment is like you enrich that moment while you're working, while you're producing, or while you're experiencing, but you should not be really bothered about for the next day or next moment. Celebrate that moment. That's what I would say, or go through that fire, I would say. Both things are important.
So Nayantara Roy asks, if Bose could answer
Yeah.
this question, what advice would you give to an art student who is struggling to find their style? Also, how soon should a young artist find their area of specialization? This is something that has been a matter of debate among my batchmates for a while now, and we are yet to come to a conclusion. And as always, thank you so much to Emami Art and Bose for this talk.
Uh, thank you. The thing is, from the extension of the previous answer, I would say that also I discussed in between that how you can take care of your. Uh, you look at when we look at the educational institutions in India, especially when I was studying, almost every student used to cry on the fourth year or third year, fifth, like we used to have 5 years, 2 years of 5 years of BFA, so I think, like what I realized is, keep on working is most important thing. Keep on working. And it is important to find many universities next door to you. When I say universities, means individuals. There are incredible minds. If you're coming from Kolkata, there are great artists are living there, like Chitravanu. There are many, and I don't want to name many, but you can just look at Jayasri Chakrabarti. Visit their studio, take appointment, and visit them. The same way, visit galleries. There is Emami, of course. There is Experimenter. There is Gallery 88, and many other gallery spaces. SEMA. So if you are in Kolkata, if you are in Mumbai, when I was studying, only we had 3 small gallery spaces, 4 small gallery spaces, and the Jahangir Art Gallery. Jahangir Gallery, what I learned is how not to do things. Why what not to do in your exhibitions more. So that learning is come from there. It was a great opportunity to visit every day or every 2 days. We used to visit that place and met a lot of incredible figures like Vivan Sundaram or Nalini Malani, or galleries like Pandol, or going to small galleries when I say about maybe 400 square feet, 500 square feet spaces, like Kemol used to have a small space above Jahangir Art Gallery, mezzanine floor, and Gallery 7, the same thing, or Pandol, and Simrosa was in Bridge Candy. So now there is about 15, 20 galleries are there, very good galleries. You should visit galleries, as a student. There is, you should not, when an artist working, you should not be thinking about money at all. Artists are all born in recession, artists are all born, you should not be worried about it. Things will happen in your life, you should go through that phase. This is also, I learned it from my another mentor, Mrs. Prema Srinivas, and she said, I was going through difficult times. So I requested for something, but she said, Bose, go through that, face it, So, but later I realized this was an important lesson I learned it from, you have to face that, some places you have to question it, but here it is. There is no shortcut to fame, or shortcut for your achievements. I think keep on working, keep on reading, keep on listening to people, respect, but don't follow any of your masters, don't follow any guru. I would say, follow yourself and keep working. Gurus always expect disciples. So you don't need a guru, you need friends. Drinking beer with friends is the highest form of art, and maybe you can have a coffee with a friend, so that kind of atmosphere you should create. Thank you.
Before I go on to the next question, our viewers on Facebook, please do write in. So Shilpa Bhargav asks, what channels of access are there for someone who is not from the art world? I don't have artist friends and I never went to art school. I have been practicing in isolation for the last 5 years and I'm keen to share my works. Galleries don't reply to emails and say they're not looking for new artists.
I don't know how to answer this, but there are a lot of opportunities. Earlier days, you need to have, like if I was looking for a book, I never used to get it. But nowadays, there are so many great opportunities. Google Art and Culture is open to everybody. You can Google it and see, like what kind of artworks are happening in museums. And the same way, eFlux, publish a fantastic uh, journals, the same way art form, you can go on, looking at a lot of magazines, but keep working, keep producing your work. One day you realize this, future, but you keep everything, safe. Don't be like me. I never had the opportunity to record it. I never had the opportunity to keep all my collection in my studio. If it is like that, it would be maybe thousands, thousands and thousands of drawings, thousands of paintings, or I don't know where are all that kind of thing. So I think it is important to archive, important to memorize, so yeah. I don't know, I have given the answer, these answers never give solutions, I think, yeah, work, I would say work. Keep on working will take you to places.
And like you said, make friends, visit galleries, visit museums, I guess.
Yeah,
Make contact.
sure,
Richi Bhatia asks, moving across ways of making and creating and materials, has it been wherein you have felt that your concerns have become contradictory at any juncture?
I'm sorry. I didn't get your question.
Um, Moving across different ways of making, creating materials, have you ever felt that your concerns have become contradictory at any point, any juncture?
Of course, many times. But it is important to know, there are a lot of theory. There are a lot of ologies in sciences. There are many theories in history. This similar manner, I think, in art also has lots of interesting styles of making art. So styles are all momentary, but some of the school of thinking, schools of practices, schools of thinking remained for more than decades, like the abstract school of practices, for example, pop, for example, fluxus, And, Arte Povera in 1968 onwards, look at the history of Arte Povera. Still people, well, Arte Povera means poor, looking at, materials, using it, poor materials, using art, making it, you can make art through that kind of materials. So there are Boetti's works. So there are many, many names you can go on talking about. As I mentioned to you, please meet friends, make friends in the art world, architecture world, film world, the design world, everywhere, and share, don't pester people, take, but, keep on working, visiting, like I can see, many of my friends, their time, they are given me such an honor to visit their studios, Dr. G. Patel, to, the gallery spaces, their homes, collectors' homes, all these places given you opportunities. Opportunities comes to you, but working is more important than anything else. And don't worry about other people, or how they're thinking about you. You keep on going what you like to do. Your passion, your commitment, and your enthusiasm will take you to places.
Bose, are you okay with answering a few more questions? We have quite a few more questions.
I am okay, but like it is already, like 45 minutes you said. Now it is much more than that, but I'm okay with the 100, like I can talk for 5 hours or 10 hours, not a problem.
So that's why I don't want to impose. Maybe a couple of more questions. One from a Facebook attendee, young artist, I think. I need one suggestion. I've done my BFA in Mysore and working as designer. I'm very passionate about painting. Due to financial problems, I'm not able to jump into contemporary paintings. How can I start? Please give a suggestion.
You don't need finance to make art, This I learned it from Akbar Padamsi. One of his conversations, I used to see Emma Hussein's son, how he used to paint on canvas. He used to sit on canvas and, used to throw his oil color tube, like always Hussein was 1 year to me, So we used to count on the money, how he's painting, like one skews of color is maybe $1,000 or $2,000. So I think, coming back to this Akbar Padamsi's suggestion, he said, even if you have a charcoal, if you have a newsprint paper, you can make art. You don't need to have high-end materials to use it. Why certain places you need to think about why are you using certain kind of mediums conceptually. You really need to think about it. But I would, you are from Bangalore, you must visit the few galleries are there, Sumukha, and a fantastic gallery called Ski. You should visit all these galleries, and and there are many others, like meet a lot of artists, great names are there, like and Harsha is in Mysore, and so I would say that these kind of things you should meet. There are opportunities. Keep working, and take Akbar Padamsi's advice.
I think Bose, because the questions keep coming and we are really over time, perhaps we should end the session here today. Thank you so much for being with us and such an enlightening vision of your decades of practice. And to our viewers, please do share your feedback on contact@emamiart.com and follow the Emami Art Facebook and Instagram pages for more updates. Richa, over to you to say your goodbyes.
Thank you, Bose. Thank you for this wonderful talk that you have given. It's actually thought provoking to hear you say a lot of things, and for me, a little more meaningful because we've had a lot of these conversations about how important connecting is, how important learning from each other is. There's never the right time to learn. And thank you, Ushmita, for this wonderful evening. I think the questions are rolling in even now. Bose, we're going to send them all to you and get some answers.
I
And
think, and
hopefully
I will write. I will write
that
after a
would be
couple of days.
wonderful.
I will write and post it. With this, with
Yeah.
the link,
I think
I
Emami,
can send.
please.
We'll
I
send you
can
all the
send it.
questions because
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
there's a lot for
So,
everyone to
Yeah.
but
share.
you have to give me some little bit of time, and thank you so much,
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Ushmita and Richa, for wonderful. I
Thank
think
you.
it was encouraging to see, some of the questions, and hope if inspire one person also, I would be very happy in future. I would like to say hello to them, face to face. A virtual hug from here, and
Absolutely.
uh, to everybody.
Take
Thank you
care
so
and
much.
stay safe.
Bye bye.
See you.
Thank you. Bye.